Viewers, after Team India's disappointing performance in Australia, BCCI is mulling new set of rules aimed at boosting performance. And these rules could be implemented ahead of the much-anticipated Champions Trophy. Sources have told Times Now that as per the new rules which are under consideration, wives and family members won't be allowed to stay with cricketers for the entire tour. Now, a family can stay with the cricketer for a maximum of 2 weeks in a tour spanning a month and a half. All players will travel in team buses only instead of traveling separately. But this is not the first time that such sort of rules have been implemented. There are several other countries on different occasions that have tried putting curbs on family time. Now, here are a few of those instances as well. In the 2019 Cricket World Cup, Pakistan implemented a no wives and girlfriends policy during the World Cup. Let's go across to what had happened, in fact, in Pakistan was that it had suffered a 4-0 ODI series loss before that to England. In the 2019 World Cup and Ashes series in Australia, we had seen them impose strict ban on wives and girlfriends on cricket players accompanying them. That was for much of Australia's World Cup as well as Ashes campaigns. In 2012 Olympics, Australia had banned swimmers' partners from entering the Olympic Village, and this too evoked a sharp reaction from several swimmers who were complaining of loneliness and demotivation due to this. And the team's medal tally, in fact, fell short of what was the expectation at that point of time. In 2018, the FIFA World Cup as well in South Korea, players were allowed to meet their family, but there was a bar on players accompanying family members that was in fact reported at that point of time, because players were stopped from posting on social media as well, is the information that is coming out from what happened in the 2018 FIFA World Cup. Let's now quickly open this up and take it across to our guests.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining us now is Monty Panesar, former English international cricketer. Monty, let me begin by asking you, you would have heard of the rules that have been implemented as far as India is concerned. I'd like to thank you for speaking to us here, but what really is your view on the BCCI reportedly considering introducing stricter guidelines for the Indian cricket team following the disappointing tour of Australia? Because amongst the proposed measures is a plan to limit family visits during extended tours and restricting wives and girlfriends from accompanying players for no more than 2 weeks on tours that are lasting a month and a half. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what we've seen is the India team hasn't really performed to the level it needs to, and the players that they have. So I think the BCCI are trying to maybe change something to hoping that India can get back on winning ways. And then if they're able to do that, then they may reassess the conditions that they've imposed on family visits. So I think they're trying to create something. They're trying to get the winning culture again. They're trying to maybe get players to focus on cricket a bit more and not get distracted by family. So I suppose they're trying to sort of maybe change the culture slightly. And the most important thing is that the BCCI want India to start winning again. And let's hope, they can able to do that.
But as a former cricketer, do you think the restriction of wives and girlfriends during tours will genuinely improve the players' focus and discipline? Or is this an outdated approach?
Something must be, happening amongst the culture of Indian cricket that's what is allowing to happen. So, during my England playing days, we didn't really restrict it. We actually enhanced it because the players found that when we weren't doing so well, they made sure that the players, don't feel like homesick or, the support of the family is there when we're not going for a rough patch. But each country has its own way of dealing with it. And I think India's kind of taken the decision of thinking, shortening family visits, getting the players to focus more on cricket will hopefully change the result. But only time will tell if this decision is the right thing for this Indian team.
Right, and modern cricket has emphasized or recognized the importance of mental well-being as well. Do you think that limiting family time might negatively impact players' mental health during these long hours?
Look, absolutely, because you're absolutely spot on. I think it is slightly outdated approach, and with the way we see like modern science and modern sports psychology, having family on tour actually relaxes the players. They're not worried about any issues that maybe the children or if they have a young family, they're all there. Now, imagine if a wife has to deal with something back home, could be anything with a young child. That's going to be a massive pressure on the player himself. He'll be constantly want to know what's the update, what is going on, and suddenly takes your focus away from the game. So I think extending family visits would be better, but it depends on culturally as well. The culture in India tends to be we want to be productive, we want to win ways, and the best way to do it is to get them to really focus on cricket.
Monty is here with us. Let's quickly open this up and take it across to other panelists who are joining us. Joining us now is Ranjit Bajaj, the founder director of the Minerva Cricket Academy. We also have with us Annie Chev, who's the editor of County Cricket Matters. With us also is Shailendra Singh. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Ranjit, let me start with you. Good move, bad move, desperate move. What's really going on?
I think, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I think it's change. I think they wanted something to change, and because things are not clicking. So I think it's not just going to be limited to these new rules coming in. You'll see a lot of changes in the personnel as well. If we had if we had supposed we had thrashed Australia, for example, I don't think anybody would have been talking about the families and wives. Instead, they would have been saying that let's extend that. In fact, that's what happened when Anushka was there and Virat did really, really well. He himself credited Anushka for being the one making sure he's doing well. But now, when you see the flip side of it, the players, like, with all due respect to Monty, the players, like he just said, if there's something wrong with the kid and the father has to worry about it, and me being a father, he's exactly right. But that's not the kind of pressure I want when I'm on tour representing my country, because it is something which is a matter of pride. It's like, if you want to be world champions, you want to be world champions. If you want to be world champions, then you have to be ruthless. And when you have to be ruthless, I don't think there should ever be a time where anyone can raise a finger on the preparedness or the focus of the team.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's any issue on that, but let me bring in Annie.
Just one.
Very quickly, please.
See, we were going for the World Championship final. That means it was the World Championship on the line. So here it should have been like representing your country like you're doing on the wall. It's
Absolutely
like
no. There's no doubt about the fact that there's a lot at stake over here. But Annie, the question that, the point that Ranjit makes is that while Virat may have credited Anushka, so on and so forth, the question is also that, social media has been very brutal in the past when Virat hasn't performed so well. But is that really the focus area? Because at the end of the day, what we need to improve is cricket. And India's had a terrible streak in the past few months.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to just suddenly blanket all family and stuff. But I also think they've also had other decisions that they've got to make, like they've been asked to play more domestic cricket, which I think is one of the main points that I would raise, is that I think there's probably been a bit too much onus on franchise cricket and short format cricket, and they do need to get back into domestic cricket very much. And for some people, bringing families along is a good thing. For others, it's not. I think it's it's not a blanket thing to help out all players.
Right. And let me bring in Shailendra Singh on that. Shailendra Singh, from winning the T20 World Cup to the streak where, New Zealand domestically, complete washout of a series. In Australia, we know what happened, but perhaps India did put up a fight over there. Before that, Sri Lanka, before that, Zimbabwe. People are not able to wrap their minds around what exactly happened to these players who actually were world champions, maybe 6 months ago, and now look at where we are. What really explains this?
Well, Madhav, to be honest, first of all, this decision is sort of reactive and not active. And especially when you're dominating the cricket global scene, I think you need to be active and not reactive. And somewhere I smell politics in this whole scenario, because at the end of the day, these are professionals. They get paid to represent the nation. And I think having the family on board or not having the family on board on a tour is their decision. This is typical sort of political twist to the thing to divert from the real issue. The real issue is selection, team composition, motivation. I mean, there are certain serious issues that involve cricket per se. Cricket should be discussed, cricketing should be discussed, selection should be discussed. But what they're doing is bringing the wives in, the family in, and diverting away from the non-performance of the team. Because if you discuss the performance, then the secretary, the chairman, the selector, the captain, everything comes in question. So the easiest way is to divert all the attention away from the sport and bring in the politics. And I think, you know what, I mean, pilots and professionals and astronauts and whatever, scientists and doctors in the world, I mean, do we tell them not to carry their family, be with their family or not? I mean, these are mature athletes. Let them decide whether it's good for them to have their family next to them or not. But don't do this, you know. You've had a bad stint for the last 4 or 5 months. Be accountable, be responsible, and put the best team forward for the nation, because this is all about the country. So I feel somewhere shortchanged as a fan and a serious follower of the game, because, I mean, somewhere the chairman, selector, and the secretary has to speak up and not let the family and wives come into the picture. This is diversion again.
But, you know, let me bring in Ranjit. You know, Ranjit, if I can play devil's advocate, there are those, you know, who've actually compared this to some kind of a military exercise. They say that, you know, when security forces are at the borders, they stay for a long period away from their family members. Do you think that's a fair comparison to make? Because at the end of the day, what those who are advocating this move say that, you know, it is to ensure that their attention is undivided towards the game. Is that a fair conclusion to draw?
See, that's where they're getting at, that the focus should only be on the cricket, okay? But what makes you say that if, suppose, the wives and families are not there, then they're not going to be up to other things? So that's, you know, they're probably going to be more in control if the wives and families are there. That's one way of putting it. But if you look at it the other way, like you just said, going for a World Test Championship, these things should have been decided earlier. Now, later on saying that this is not allowed or this is wrong, brings it back to passing the buck. Number one, it should not forget about Rohit Sharma's wife. Rohit Sharma himself should not have been on this tour. Simple as that. And that is the thing they're getting away from. Not his wife. Rohit Sharma should not have been there. That's the question which should be asked. And now we're blaming the poor guy's wife for doing this is not the right thing to do. Probably his form was the right thing. Yeah. Now, looking at it, like Shalinder said, we've got to make big changes. Putting them on the team bus is something I would totally be against, because I think you are in the zone when you're going for the match. And at that time, you need to be doing your pre-match rituals and doing it totally like that. You don't want your wife, right, 10 minutes before you enter the field, or your girlfriend 10 minutes before you enter the field. Once you're on the bus, it's a team atmosphere, the whole thing.
No, but actually the team bus is also being seen. You know, Rajit, sorry, I'm just coming in there and I want Shailendra to respond to this. Rajit, the team bus move, is that to ensure that no players travel separately? It is to foster that unity amongst players, because, you know, even Gautam Gambhir's personal manager, it said, will not travel on the bus. So I think it's to ensure that there's better interaction between the team members, that everyone's united as a team. I think that's the message going out, and that is a positive one, isn't it? Shailendra.
Oh, is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that for me?
So Madhav,
Sorry.
I don't know whether you're aware, but I spent nearly 2 decades with the Indian team. And I must say, through the era of sort of Ganguly and everybody, and I'll tell you one thing, you know, an athlete knows exactly what is he or she has signed up when they represent the country. Okay, they're serious professionals. They know what's on the line for the nation. So 100% I agree with you that obviously the bus and the dressing room are like literally the holy space for the sport. So there's no discussion in that. But I mean, these are mature athletes, for God's sake. I mean, they can make some serious decisions, you know, whether the family with them motivates them or doesn't. So leave it to them. But at the end of the day, Madhav, I've got to repeat this, that you can't do the defeats of New Zealand and Australia by doing these diversional tactics of blaming the families and the athletes. You know something? This is not motivational for the athletes. This is going to be detrimental for the athletes' performance. Trust me.
Right.
Because you are then treating them like kids and making rules and regulations. And that comparison with the army is inappropriate. The army goes to war sometimes in a decade once, or maybe in 3 decades one time. These athletes play day in and day out for the country. They have so much pressure. They need emotions, they love caring, they need everything that we can give them. This is completely unfair that the board is diverting the non-performance onto the decision of not allowing their loved ones on the tour.
All right. Those are some very strong words indeed. And of course, remains to be seen what happens after the Champions Trophy. But let me bring in Monty because, the role of Gautam Gambhir, as after every series, the coach's performance will also be under review. But Monty, recently you've launched a scathing attack on Gambhir, highlighting his below par record in England and Australia. However, much accountability does it really rest on coaches given the fact that their role is primarily to guide, and isn't it ultimately the players who are responsible for performing on the field?
Yeah, well, you got to be honest as well, like with Gautam Gambhir, he may need some technical help as well. He hasn't obviously had the best records. And from an England player perspective, they tend to sort of think that if there's a player who's done really well in these certain conditions, you tend to sort of listen to them. They've done it, they've been there, they've done that. And, you end up, whatever they say, you end up following that. And I think Gautam Gambhir kind of was saying that, well, we have these team meetings, but they don't really tend to follow what we have in the team meeting out on the pitch. They tend to play their own way. And maybe that's the frustration. And one of the reasons maybe they may not take Gautam Gambhir seriously is because maybe, obviously his record in Australia and England isn't so great. So the BCCI may just think, actually, why don't we bring in someone to help with the technical stuff. So Gautam Gambhir can oversee the team however he wants it, under his conditions. And I think he performs at his best when he's given, how do you want to run the team? What do you need in place? And if he's given that freedom, then I think we'll see the best of Gautam Gambhir. I think he has a lot of knowledge, he's a natural leader. But maybe when it comes to technical advice, where places like England, you need a really good technical coach, they may just think, okay, who is the best technical coach that we have at the present that could help, with Gautam Gambhir and the players around? Because the ball swings, it nips around.
Let me just quickly bring in a comment from Annie before we wrap up the show. Annie, in 2007, we had seen a similar report come in when, after an Ashes disaster tour, the England and Wales Cricket Board had gotten a special independent sports administrator to actually come in. And this was, again, one of the similar recommendations that was made at that point of time. We've seen examples from the Cricketing World Cup and from other disciplines as well, where different countries, national teams have tried this formula. Do you think the experimentation and the experience globally, what has it been, and has it really opened people's minds now?
Well, they make these recommendations, don't they? But they don't necessarily follow through with them. So, no, I think we just have to agree that actually playing Australia in Australia is hard and it's very, very tricky. And even England, when we played them last, we were so bad that we had to have a high performance review about our own domestic cricket. So, there's overreactions, and also you have to remember that Sharma and Kohli, they're getting on. They're not as young as they were. They will be not as good as they always have been. So you have to allow for the changes that is happening in the team as well.
And that's always a tough decision, isn't it? When to let go and how well to time that decision.
Awful for these great icons,
Absolutely. Yeah, Shailendra, very quickly, we are out of time, but quick comment.
Feel somewhere, I think, 1.4 crore Indians, 140 crore Indians are wanting one answer: accountability for the defeats of New Zealand and Australia. We had the best team, but something was lacking. And I don't think anybody wants to hold, BCCI doesn't want to hold anybody accountable. And therefore, a little diversion.
All right, we'll have to wrap it up there. Monty Panesar, I'd like to thank you as well as Ranjit Bajaj, Anishev, as well as Shailendra Singh for joining us. What really happens? Will this really impact on India's performance? That's the big question that cricket fans are certainly hoping to get an answer from. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.